All right, you guys, welcome back into another One Piece chapter discussion. Today, we're here to talk about chapter 1108, Attention World. Okay, so we start off with a color spread this week, and it's a nice color spread, right? We got the One Piece girls here in front of us. We have Robin, we have Nami, Uta, Tashigi, Reiju, and Hancock. At first glance, this seems completely random, right? But it is to promote Oda's novel of the One Piece heroines, which kind of goes into detail about all of these girls individually, so it makes sense as to why this is the color spread, especially since Heroines released, I think, a week or two ago. So in that regard, it is a really nice color spread, but you guys know me, deep down, I am still waiting for a canon cover page story. Please, Oda, give me something, right? I want to know what's happening out there in the world. Show me the Grand Fleet even, please, Oda, please. So yes, we go on to the chapter though. We pick up where we left off last week. We have Van Augur and Canary Devon debating on whether or not they want to bring Caribou to Marshall D. Teach. And I actually like this segment a lot. So when I read the spoilers and I saw that this was going to happen, I was like, damn, you know, we're going to be hit with filler. Oh no. But and then I actually read it and I was like, wait, this makes a lot of sense. You know, Katarina Devon, Van Augur, they are being very cautious. They're like, hey, world government agents want to kill our captain. We're on a world government island. Why would we bring back wet-haired Caribou? You know, it makes a lot of sense, and I love seeing that they actually put thought into their actions. You know, they're just not like, hey, why not? Let's just take him to Teach. Ha ha ha. No. They're actually putting thought behind all of their actions, and I just absolutely love it. The Blackbeard Pirates, I have to say this, like, as the chapters go on, especially here in the final saga, they really do strike me as competent characters. Only far and few between do we get characters that feel competent, and I'm like, yo, like, I'm liking these Blackbeard Pirates, dude. Like, they're growing on me, man. You know, forget the Straw Hats, let me join the Blackbeard crew. I don't know, dude, I don't know. That being said though, Caribou does end up convincing both of them that he is worthy of Commodore Teach's time. They still seem a little bit hesitant because, you know, they kind of look at each other and they have the ... thing going on. So even though Caribou does say he has valuable information, they are still on guard with him, which is pretty cool. But like I said last week, my whole like revelation with this is that Van Augur and Devon can totally take out Caribou, right? Like, let's be real. Let's say worst case scenario, Caribou is after Commodore Teach's head. You know, he actually hates the Blackbeard Pirates. He was lying to us last week. Even if that was the case, Van Augur alone should be able to take this guy out, right? Like, I mean, Caribou isn't exactly the strongest fighter out there, but of course they don't know that, so, you know, they are still on guard, which is kind of cool. Caribou here in this opening segment does confirm something that a lot of people kind of were on board with last week, where Caribou was just going to instantly divulge information about the ancient weapons, and lo and behold, in this chapter, he's like, hey, Shirahoshi, Pluton. If I tell Teach about that, he'll love me. So yeah, once Blackbeard hears that, I think he will be all over the ancient weapons, right? Like, Blackbeard is all about power. He's all about conquering the world. Why not get Pluton? Why not get Shirahoshi? I think Shirahoshi would be the easiest one to get. I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between this. I have been thinking a lot about it. And it's like, okay, if we go to Fishman Island, there's not exactly any strong fighters there. Like, we have the Neptune brothers, but outside of that, I feel like it's not super hard to obtain Shirahoshi. Maybe if she activates her powers there and she summons the Sea Kings, then we'll have a problem, especially since all of the Blackbeard crew are Devil Fruit users. But I don't know if Shirahoshi can control it yet, so that's kind of iffy. Wano is another interesting one as well, because Wano, they do have strong fighters there. They have the Scabbards, they have Yamato, Momonosuke, all of them. But, you know, I'm just going to say it right here. Sorry to the Scabbard fans, but if Blackbeard and his full crew roll up to Wano, it's game over, right? I mean, Blackbeard already beat Marco and the Whitebeard remnants in the Revenge War. I think he could run through the Scabbards, especially now that all of his crew have Devil Fruits. And now that he has Kuzan, you know, I think, I definitely think Blackbeard can take over Wano if he wanted to. He has the perfect power to destroy the borders, to release Pluton. The Guruguru no Mi was said to be the Devil Fruit that has the power to destroy the world. You know, we've seen Whitebeard cause sea quakes. I think Blackbeard can destroy a wall. You know, base level, I think Blackbeard can do it. So yeah, I think these ancient weapons, I might as well say that Blackbeard already has them, low-key. I know that's a stretch, But I do think that if Blackbeard wants them, he can definitely take them. My main question now is how will the Straw Hats react to this? I think that is what is exciting about this, because Fishman Island, we're homeboys with them. Wano, they have our flag. Like, we are allied with both of these nations. So I am more excited about the fallout, right? We've been talking about how Luffy and Blackbeard are eventually going to fight. Why are they going to fight? What's going to push them to that extent? Well, first up, Kobe was a thing, right? Kobe, boom. Luffy would want to save Kobe, but he's a Marine. Kobe escaped. Cool. Don't worry about Kobe anymore. Now Garp is captured. Luffy cares about Garp. Would Luffy go after Garp? I don't know yet, right? It's his grandpa, but he's also a Marine. You know, it's a weird bag. And then there's Pudding, and it's like, yo, Luffy likes pudding. Sanji likes pudding. Everybody who went to Whole Cake Island likes pudding. I think that would be a character that we would be somewhat interested in saving. But it's kind of like the Garp thing, right? Pudding has ties to Big Mom, so maybe Luffy will look at that and be like, hey, that's Big Mom's problem. It's always a weird thing where it's like a push and pull, push and pull. We could save them, but maybe we use this logic to not save them. But I feel like attacking Shirahoshi, attacking Fishman Island, and attacking Wano would be things where Luffy has no reason not to save them. Those are places that have our flag. Those are people we promised to protect. So I feel like this right here is going to push Luffy to want to confront Blackbeard. And I'm excited, man. I am super excited to see that, bro. Honestly, we're kind of getting into headcanon territory here, but I would even love if, when we hear about Blackbeard attacking Wano and Fishman Island, if Luffy splits up the crew and sends specific people to those islands, I think that'd be kind of dope, you know? Because Blackbeard does that all the time, right? He has Devon and Augur here. Blackbeard himself was on Winter's Island. He had certain crews stationed at Hachinosu. It would be cool if Luffy strategized or planned to that extent. I feel like somebody else would have to make that decision for him, but yes, seeing the Straw Hats mobilize in multiple areas as a true Yonko crew, dream come true, in my opinion. Dream come true. So anyways, enough speculation now. We go on a little bit farther and we see that the Marines, the Vice Admirals, do not like attacking the Pacifista. They're like, yo, we are destroying our own weapons. What are we doing? You know, it's kind of funny because it's getting to the point where even some of the VAs are wondering why they're even doing the Buster Call. I think it's Vice Admiral Hound. I have the chapter right here, by the way, so if I look down, that's why. Yeah, Hound is the one who says, wait, it'd be unprecedented, but is there a chance of calling off the Buster Call for now? Yo, dude, when the VAs are like, yo, this is a bad idea. I mean, we're saying something. And here's another thing to keep in mind about the Buster Call as well. But because they're firing off the Buster Call, they're all locked to their ships. They have 30,000 Marines. There are 9 Vice Admirals, but they all are locked on their ships. It's like, yo, yeah, the Buster Call was not a good idea. Go back on land. Go fight. Go do something, man. Yeah. I'm glad that the Vice Admirals are at least thinking about this situation and they're like, hey, maybe this isn't what we should be doing right now, right? I love that the Vice Admirals all have different mindsets. It's really refreshing to see. And we actually get names for all of the Vice Admirals in this chapter, which I love. You know, I am a big Vice Admiral fan. They're a bunch of losers. I know, right? Like, these guys, they get one shot. They're not going to beat Luffy, Zoro, Sanji. I was always saying that. You know, these Vice Admirals are fodder. But I love them. There's just something about their designs. They have spirit. They have interesting devil fruits. Like, these guys are cool, man. I do think the Vice Admirals are super cool. So I'm just gonna run down the list of the VAs we have named in this chapter. We got all of them. So we already met Bluegrass. The next one we meet in this chapter is Hound, which is a type of dog, right? You know, people call dogs hounds. So yeah, we have another dog named VA. And then after that, we have a guy named Guillotine, which I want to come back to him in a second because I think I do have the connection for that one as well. Next, we have Doberman, which, of course, we already knew his name, dog breed. And then we have Tosa. Tosa, another dog breed, okay? I see a thematic here. We go down a little bit more, and we get one named Urban. Honestly, Urban is the one VA name that I'm not too sure what it relates to, but you know, maybe it'll be explained at a later date. Next, we have Pomsky, which is another dog breed. And by that point, I'm like, man, Oda really loves dogs and Vice Admirals. And here's the thing, too. Going back to Guillotine, so I wasn't super sure what guillotine meant in terms of like a vice admiral name and how it fits in with either the dogs or Bluegrass or Red King. But somebody in Par's live stream said that guillotine is a type of dog nail clipper. So I looked up guillotine dog nail clippers, and lo and behold, it looks just like guillotine's haircut. So I do think that guillotine is also a vice admiral that is related to dogs. And even though I myself am a cat guy, I love that they're all dog related. I don't know. I love the diversity in these guys. I wish we could see more of them do things in this chapter. All we get, I believe, is just Tosa, which we'll get to here in a second. But yeah, going back to the vice admirals and how they don't want to destroy the pacifistas, they're saying, hey, I can't believe Vegapunk gave Bonnie control of the pacifistas. I can't believe she is at the top of the hierarchy. What should we do about this? And that is when Doberman comes up with the amazing idea of simply killing Bonnie. Doberman says that all available vice admirals should leave their stations and hunt her down immediately. Which is kind of crazy when you think about the fact that she is just a 12-year-old girl. But hey, you know, she is controlling the pacifista. A singular pacifista costs as much as a warship. So yeah, you know, Bonnie's essentially stealing all the money here on Egghead Island. So yeah, we got to take her down. But for me, at least, that does bring up the question of if they do kill Bonnie, like hypothetically, Bonnie dies, but her last order to the pacifista were to help them escape Egghead Island, would that order be canceled now that Bonnie's dead? Like would the pacifista actually register that, oh, the person who gave me this order died, so I guess we just don't do anything anymore? I wonder how that works, because I feel like that does open a box of worms where the Seraphim have the hierarchy chip in them as well, but to them, the highest authority is the Gorosei. So does this mean that eventually, if we just kill the Gorosei, the Seraphim will be free, since, you know, the Gorosei are no longer there, and since Vegapunk is dead? I'm not too sure. But I do think that is a little bit interesting. I love that Oda kind of touched on that notion. So now, going down a little bit, though, we do see Vice Admiral Tosa, and he is the first one up to bat. He is the first VA that has visuals on Bonnie and Franky. And he goes in with a crazy attack. He unleashes an attack called the Tosa Crunch. And it is a 10-barrel finger gun that can even rip open armor. Which is kind of interesting that he says that, because how often in One Piece do we actually see armor? Like, I guess the pacifista are armored, Franky is armored, but outside of them, it's like, yo, who's actually wearing knight armor nowadays? But either way, Tosa Crunch is going crazy, you know, Tenshigans are firing off. Franky's like, what's going on here? It's a Marine. I know this is gonna sound silly, but I'm actually curious to see how much damage this would have done to Franky if he took the blow. Because not only did this guy say he can pierce armor and Franky is like a robot, but also he's hitting Franky from behind and Franky's back is like the weak side of him. So I'm actually curious now, but hey, that doesn't happen. The Tosa Crunch does not land because Dory and Bragi show up. And yo, all I gotta say is that in this chapter, the Giants did something for me that I didn't think was possible. Dory and Bragi, and even the giant people who don't have names yet, they managed to bring a smile to my face. No joke. Like, I was reading this part of the chapter, you know, Dory and Bragi were talking about Straw Hat, they were talking to Bonnie, and not gonna lie, I grinned a little bit, right? Like, yo, they're like, hey, we're warriors from Elbaf. We're friends of Straw Hat. We want to help him. We're grateful for him. Oh, you're Bonnie? We don't recognize you, but you guys are with him, right? Okay, we'll protect you. Like, it just felt like a really good moment. And I think that's because we can easily tell their intentions, right? Like, we know that they're good guys. They wear their heart on their sleeves. And I think that is what's so endearing about the Giants. You know, I feel like a racist, you know, my heart is slowly being cured by these guys. So yeah. Dory and Bragi show up. They one-hit Vice Admiral Tosa. I hate to see it, man. Like I said, Vice Admirals are cool, but they're not always strong. They're not always strong in the grand scheme of things. And it's kind of crazy when you think about how strong they are now compared to Little Garden, because I just rewatched One Piece for like the 4th or 5th time, and you know, Little Garden is still fresh on the mind for me. So whenever I see Dory and Bragi, I'm like, yo, these guys couldn't get out of the Mr. 3 wax, you know? It's like, it's insane that they are now one-shotting a Vice Admiral. No name attack, no hockey, just boom. And I think it was just Bragi, right? Yeah, it was just Bragi. Like, Dory wasn't even in here, yo. Dory was just sitting in the background watching. Yeah. These VAs, man, they're getting Tosa crunched. It is actually insane. And the craziest part is that I think 2 weeks ago when we saw the Dorian Bragi reveal, I was kind of on the fence. I was like, okay, Dorian Bragi versus the VAs. I thought that they had a pretty good chance at beating them, but I wasn't completely sold. And then we get to this chapter. We get to this chapter, and one VA, Tosa Crunch, he got destroyed by Bragi's axe. No Hakoku sovereignty. Like I said, no Haki, no lightning effect. Dude, come on. Yeah. Dorian Bragi, they can run the gauntlet. They can destroy all the vice admirals. I am thoroughly convinced now. It's pretty insane. It's pretty insane. And going back to the Lil Garden comparison, like going past Mr. 3 for a second, because he's kind of like an anomaly, right? People like to say he played dirty, and that's very fair, but the world of pirates, man, it's a dirty place out there, You can't hold that against Mr. 3. So seeing how strong they are here on Egghead Island is pretty crazy. But it's like the Rob Lucci thing, right? Rob Lucci got defeated by Gear 2nd Luffy, and then now here he is, fighting Zoro, stalling Zoro for like 1,000 chapters, clashing with Gear 5th Luffy. It's like, okay, yeah. These guys who we saw pre-time skip, they're crazy. If they just keep on training, like Dorian Bragi, like Rob Lucci and the others, yeah, like these guys can get absolutely insanely powerful. And it does hype me up for Crocodile, for Enel, or anybody else we met pre-time skip. It gives me a lot of hope for those guys. And hey, if this is how strong Dorian Bragi are, yo, just imagine Prince Loki. Just imagine whoever the king of Elbaf is, or any more of the Elbaf warriors. Like, this is, Elbaf is going to be a pretty exciting arc, man. It's going to be a really nice time. So going down, though, when Dorian Bragi see Frankie, they said, hey, we checked the bounty posters to make sure we'd recognize the new members, but none of you look familiar. Are you researchers? And Dory follows it up by saying, we've come to get the Straw Hats, implying that the people in front of him aren't the Straw Hats, right? Which is kind of crazy because Frankie is right there. But it does just slap you back to reality with the fact that Frankie's bounty poster is not of Frankie. It's of General Frankie. Or no. Actually, it was General Frankie, but now it's 1,000 Sunny. It's the 1,000 Sunny. So it's like, yo, like Oda, he's playing around with that one. And bounty poster foreshadowing has been a thing throughout the series. With Sanji, for example, right? Sanji's bounty poster has always been a little bit scuffed. And then boom, we see that Duval was a real character, and that bounty poster was a gag that kind of played off. And then we had Sanji having a bounty poster that said only alive. And it's like, yo, Oda's doing something here. Oda is cooking something up with the Frankie 1,000 Sunny bounty poster. I'm not too sure what it is yet. There are a couple of possibilities I am toying with, but if you go back to an SBS, there is one segment where Oda likes to age up characters into good and bad timelines, and in one timeline, Frankie actually merges himself with a battleship. So I'm wondering if that means that Frankie's gonna merge with 1,000 Sunny. I feel like there's a couple of different ways Oda can go about it, and I'm really interested to see what Oda's gonna do with it, right? I feel like that is a mystery, and by Oda just throwing these lines out here, it's like, okay, Oda's hyping it up. I don't know. Blame Oda, not me. Blame Oda. So another reason why I like this dialogue here is because it shows that Dorian Bragi and even the giants of Elbaf, they're not dumb. I know that sounds weird, but they're not dumb characters. Like, these guys did their homework. They're like, yo, we looked at the bounty posters, right? Like, we were looking at it, and we were just trying to see who was who. I love that. I love that the Giants did not come in here blind. They came in here with a plan. They're just here to save the Straw Hats, and anybody who says they're allied with the Straw Hats, they're willing to help as well. Because Bonnie, who isn't even a part of the crew, is like, hey, Luffy, Sanji, and Vegapunk, they're over there. Can you please save them? Dorian Bragi, you're like, yeah, you betcha, little miss. And then the next thing we see this nameless giant pick up Bonnie, Frankie, even Kuma and Atlas. And it's like, yo, these giants are wholesome, dude. These giants are so wholesome. Yeah, maybe I was wrong to be racist. Maybe I was wrong. All I need now to totally sway me like the Grinch on Christmas is just to see them fight Saturn or Kizaru. If Dorian Bragi have a good showing against Kizaru and Saturn, oh, my heart, dude, it's gonna grow 5 times the size for these giants. Yeah. They might actually move up on my racial tier list, which I am making. I'm gonna make like the top 10 races in One Piece. And you know what? I think the giants are snagging a top 5 spot. So we go down a little bit, and we see that Bluegrass and Doll are about to make landfall here on Egghead Island. And I think this is a really interesting duo, because when you really think about it, you know, the VAs coming back onto Egghead Island, who are they going to fight, right? You have Luffy on one end, and then you have Franky and the Giants on the other end. But there is a matchup that we could get from the VAs that could be in their favor. Because at the end of this chapter, we see that Sanji is taking Vegapunk to the ship. You know, Sanji is running to the coast, or he's going wherever. He's trying to save Vegapunk. And I'm like, yo, Oda really just put the only two women enemies of Egghead Island together. I think Doll and Bluegrass are going to run into Sanji. And then Sanji might not be able to fight them. That is kind of what I'm afraid of. But hey, right now, Sanji is a different beast. I feel like if he saw them, he could probably just like moonwalk away. He's probably way faster than both of these characters. So maybe it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But yeah, I do find this pair up really interesting, right? Like, okay, you got Doll and Bluegrass, the only two women on the crew. Okay. Yeah, they're going to run into Sanji. They're totally going to run into Sanji. Because let's just think about the other options, right? Like I said, it's either Sanji, Franky, or Luffy. Problem with attacking Franky is that he has the Giants by his side. I don't think Doll and Bluegrass are going to beat the Giants. No way. No way. And then Luffy's gonna wax them, and even then they're gonna get in the way of Kizaru and Saturn. I doubt they want to get in the middle of that matchup. So yeah, the only realistic option in my eyes would be Doll and Bluegrass running into Sanji, and then that being a little bit of a gag, and then Sanji probably just running away because, like I said, he is super fast. So yeah, that's probably how I think it's gonna play out. So we go down even more, and we see that Saturn has transformed one more time. He now seems to be in his full Zoan transformation. He is this giant spider. He lost his arms. I don't know what is going on. He's got those crazy eyes on. Yeah. Saturn, he is a different beast entirely. What I think is hilarious about this, though, is that Sanji is just kind of like, oh, look at him. He's given up on looking like a human. And then Luffy's still bouncing around. They're kind of disrespecting this new form in a way, right? Like, nobody's exactly scared of Saturn anymore. You know, like, Sanji's still smoking a cigarette. Luffy's just talking to Vegapunk. Yeah. It's a good little scene. I do like his new transformation, and we'll talk more about it here in a second, but Vegapunk has a couple of words he wants to share with us. And those words pertain to Bonnie, and how he didn't want to tell Bonnie about the hierarchy until after she was older, because once it is known that Bonnie can control the Pacifista, Marines are going to be hunting her day and night. And that is exactly what we're seeing here on Egghead Island, right? The Vice Admirals are like, hey, we need the Pacifistas. Let's kill Bonnie. It is a genuine problem. And I do like that he says this here, that he's been worried about it, because it does fill up that little gap of like, oh, why didn't Vegapunk just tell her earlier? Well, it's because she would be in the Marines' crosshair. So I love this a lot. But now it does bring back up the question of, where is Bonnie going to end up after Egghead? Is she going to join the Straw Hats so that they can protect her? Is she going to stay with the Giants from Elbaf because obviously the Marines don't want to fight the Giants? Or does she somehow run into Dragon? I feel like this just does bring up the question of like, hey, who's going to protect Bonnie at the end of the day? Because she is still a kid, you know? Like, she has a lot of power in her hands, yes, but I feel like she does need people behind her, whether that be the Straw Hats, the Giants, or Dragon. And right now, I am leaning towards the Straw Hats, but I do think Dragon would be the better option in the long run, just because she has her family legacy in there, right? Kuma was a part of the Revs, Ginny was a part of the Revs, she saw the memories, she saw Dragon, Dragon's related to Luffy, so she's kind of connected in that regard too. And plus, Kuma did want to fight alongside Dragon once more, so if Bonnie joins Dragon, you know, the Pacifistas are going to be coming alongside with her. I feel like it could go either way, and I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that. Do you think Bonnie will join the Straw Hats or the Revs? The only problem with her joining the Revs is how the heck are we going to find them, right? The Revs are still at Kamabaka Queendom. You know, the Revs have said they wanted to make a move for like the last 40 chapters. They're still at home base. So us running into the Revs is kind of low right now, but we'll see what happens. You know, things change as the chapters progress. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where this Bonnie storyline goes. So now, back to Saturn, right? Back to the bozo here. Saturn has transformed. He's got the crazy eyes. He's a full spider. And now that he's transformed, his spider claw things now excrete venom. Venom so strong that it melts objects around him. It's pretty insane. This is a Magellan level feat. This is just another hint that Saturn is indeed a mythological Zoan, because going back to the Road to Laugh-Tale volume, I think it was 3, where Oda talked about mythological Zoan devil fruits, he said that what makes them really special is that the user has a myriad of powers. Like Luffy, for example, right? Luffy, he has the properties of rubber, but he doesn't have the rubber fruit. He is the Sun God Nika guy, right? Kaido is a dragon, but Kaido also has wind and fire attacks. Yamato, I forgot the name of Yamato's devil fruit. Forgive me for a second. But Yamato is a Zoan, but she also has ice attacks. Same with Sengoku. He's a Buddha, but he has shock waves. Saturn is a spider bull demon, but he also has venom. So yes, I am more and more convinced now that Saturn is simply a mythological Zoan devil fruit user. That being said though, now that Saturn has went full Zoan from the looks of it, he isn't talking. I didn't realize this my first time reading it, but after Saturn transforms, the man doesn't say a word. And we're talking about Chatty Cathy here. Like, Saturn loves talking. If you go back to all the chapters where Saturn's gonna do something, or Saturn's about to attack somebody, or, you know, somebody's like looking at Saturn, Saturn always has something to say. He's like, oh, you insects, what are you doing? How dare you? Like, Saturn, he's a yapper, dude. He's like a One Piece YouTuber, right? You know, Saturn loves hearing himself talk. But after he transforms and gets those eyes, like, he's not doing anything. What is this saying about him? Is he like the jailers from Impel Down? Did he perhaps lose his self-consciousness? I don't know. One thing that's a little bit interesting though, at least for me, or one connection that I kind of started making, is that since his eyes now look really insane, I'm wondering if Imu has something to do with this. Like, maybe Imu is taking control of Saturn. Maybe Saturn is tapping into some Imu powers here. I'm not too sure, because I remember back when Imu and the Gorosei first transformed, a popular theory was that Imu gave the Gorosei their powers, which I don't think is that crazy. So if that is the case, then there could be a scenario where, you know, Imu is watching this fight, and Imu is like, yo, Saturn is a bozo. Let me take over. Maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe that's why Saturn isn't talking. But yeah, I think it's very interesting. Another thing that I found a little bit fascinating is that when Saturn attacks Luffy, and which we'll get to Luffy and Sanji here in a second, but Saturn's legs start like doing this weird rubbery effect, right? So it's like, yo, like, does Saturn have another property in him? Is he also rubber-like? Is this Imu's power? I'm not too sure. There's a lot of things going on here, because let me tell you, I've seen a lot of spiders in my life. Granted, they're not spider ox demons, but all the spiders I have seen do not have wiggly limbs like that. So I'm like, yeah, like, I think there is a chance that something more is happening here. And, you know, I think it would be cool if maybe by the end of this battle, Imu has something to say to Luffy, right? Like, imagine Imu takes over Saturn's voice and is like, oh, Sun God Nika, it's been 900 years. I don't know. That's some headcanon stuff, but I think it would be really cool. So now, going on to the Luffy segment, because when Saturn comes in to attack Luffy and Sanji, they're kind of dodging with ease. You know, Sanji is grabbing Vegapunk and running. Pretty cool that he's dodging the attacks. But Luffy, on the other hand, man, Luffy has clones. There are 5 Luffys bouncing up and down. Saturn can't hit a single one of them, brother. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy. I think what I like most about Luffy creating clones is that he's probably doing this because he saw Kizaru do it a while ago, right? Because Kizaru made clones first, you know? Kizaru W! Kizaru made the clones first. Sorry, that's so dumb. Kizaru made the clones first, and then Luffy thought they were really cool, right? Like, I think he admired them for like a brief second. So Luffy probably saw that, and he was like, yo, I can do that too. It's just another showing that Luffy's imagination truly dictates his fruit. So yeah, that is most likely the reason why we have 5 Luffys just bouncing around. And you know what's crazy too? Like, imagine a Gatling attack from 5 different Luffys from every angle. Yeah, Saturn's cooked, dude. Saturn's so cooked. I don't know. Like, by the end of this chapter, I'm just gonna jump ahead for a second, but by the end of this chapter, it turns into a 1v2. Luffy versus Saturn and Kizaru. And it's like, yo, if Luffy ever gets overwhelmed, he can just create clones. Like, you're fighting Naruto at this point, dude. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Luffy's got this in the bag. And I made a video talking about it already, but I think I severely underestimated how powerful Luffy is at this point. Because I was always on the boat that Luffy would beat Kizaru. He could probably beat Saint Saturn. But at the same time, I didn't see it. And then we get this chapter and I'm like, yo, like, I was wrong, man. Like, Luffy is that guy. Just give him some food. And Luffy is solid. Yeah, absolutely insane. And also, one more thing, going back to Saint Saturn's transformation. Since I talked about Luffy and how he's using his imagination to do these crazy attacks and to create clones, there does exist a reality where Saturn is also using his imagination to, you know, make his arms and legs kind of wiggly. So that is another plausible choice, but I don't know why he would go catatonic. Maybe he made a binding vow. Maybe that's a thing, but I'm not too sure. So Luffy says, hey, Sanji, take Vegapunk and run. You know, we don't have time to waste here. Sanji picks up Vegapunk. Vegapunk is like, hey, ow, I'm dying. Sanji, please don't move me. And the next thing we see is that Kizaru shows up and kicks Sanji. And then he like straight up shoots Vegapunk. Oh my god. Yeah, okay, so when the Raw chapter came out last night, I didn't read through them, but you know, I do hop online. I like to see what people are saying about the chapter. And some people are saying that maybe Kizaru cauterized Vegapunk's wound because he shot the same hole that Saturn stabbed. I also talked to Par and he said the same thing as well. And I'm like, you know what? I could see that. Because after Kizaru shoots Vegapunk, Kizaru has like this look where he kind of like looks back, you know, his eyes are shaded. And I'm like, okay, that's a little bit interesting, right? And then we go down to the next page, and when we see Vegapunk again, Sanji is like, yo, Vegapunk, what are you smiling about? So at that point, I'm like, maybe he did help Vegapunk. And then I go to the next panel, and we see a heart monitor. And it is fizzing out. Vegapunk's heart monitor is flatlining. And at that point, I'm like, okay, never mind. Never mind. Kizaru did the final blow on Vegapunk, and it's an interesting moment. Kizaru must really love this job. All I gotta say. You know, Kizaru loves this job. He shot his best friend, and he's a key factor as to why he died. Granted, Vegapunk was going to die anyways because Saturn stabbed him and Sanji's moving him. But yeah, Kizaru was the nail in the coffin. Which I could still see Kizaru looking at this in a friendly light. You know, like, here's the thing. If you're gonna kill your best friend, you want to be the person who pulls the trigger, right? Like, better Kizaru do it than Saturn, right? Like, better die to the person you know than the person you don't. So maybe that's the takeaway here. But I am just so fascinated when it comes to Kizaru. I want to know where he's mentally at. Like, why does he love this job so much? How does he feel about Vegapunk, you know? Like, did he have to cover his eyes for this one? Because last chapter, when he was about to shoot Vegapunk, he was, like, closing his eyes. He didn't want to look at it. He's like, I'm sorry. I'm going to put you guys out together. But this time around, he really just went in for the kill. And then after he shoots Vegapunk and he sees that Sanji is trying to run away again, it looks like Kizaru is trying to teleport over to Sanji to hit Vegapunk one more time. Until Luffy stops him, of course. And I'm like, damn, dude. Kizaru, brother, why? You know, like, I was always on the boat that Kizaru would betray the Navy or Kizaru would feel really bad about all of this. But in this last chapter, man, he's just trying to get that job done. So yeah, now more than ever, I am just wondering what is pushing Kizaru to this extent. I guess the same could be said for any of the admirals, right? Because these are all just characters at the end of the day. They all have a backstory. They all have some motivation. They're not exactly one-dimensional characters. And Kizaru especially, because he is unclear justice. He has gone back and forth multiple times in this arc about how he doesn't want to kill his friends, how he wish he didn't have to do this job, and how he's also doing this job. So it's like, yo, like, what is going on with this guy? What does the final saga have in store for Kizaru? What does the rest of this island have in store for him? I have no clue. But yeah, now just talking a little bit about Sanji. He does get hit by Kizaru, which is very unfortunate. But what's kind of cool is that Sanji bounces back pretty dang fast, right? Sanji gets kicked, you know, obviously Vegapunk gets hit because of that, which is kind of sad. But Sanji, literally like 2 panels afterwards, just picks him back up and just starts running. It's like, yo, that Germa skeleton, man, it's going crazy. It's going crazy. So now that everything has gone down, Luffy is starting to get serious. He says, hey, you two. Oh, it was a great finale, a great double page at the end. Luffy says, you two, you know, there's no way I'm letting you escape, right? And he has one hand on Kizaru and the other on Saint Saturn. And this is what really sealed it in for me, that Saint Saturn isn't fully here. Because the regular Saint Saturn would have said something, right? Saint Saturn would have been like, oh, you insect, get off of me. Or he would have been like, Nika. But no, this time around, Saturn isn't saying any of that. If anything, if you look at that final page, it looks like Saturn isn't even looking at Luffy. Like, he's looking through him. It's actually like a zombie. So I am kind of convinced that maybe Saturn isn't even there anymore. It's kind of like when Kurama takes over Naruto, or when the Hollow Ichigo steps out. Something's going on with this man. But yeah, Luffy going big mode, 1v2ing a Gorosei and an Admiral. Absolutely insane. But the fight is just starting, right? You know, Saturn probably has more in his bag. Probably same with Kizaru if he has an awakening. And I don't want to count my chickens until they hatch, but based on the ending of this chapter, it does look really good for Luffy. Luffy looks awesome here. And, you know, maybe I was just underestimating Yonko Luffy, but, you know, I wasn't expecting him to go this hard this soon, right? Like, damn. Luffy is a menace, man. So another thing to keep in mind, though, is that even if Luffy gets pushed back a little bit, right? Worst case scenario, they push Luffy back a little bit because it's a 1v2. Have to keep in mind, Dory and Bragi are on their way. Yo, the Giants are coming. And what's crazy too is that if you look at one of the final panels where we get the back shot of Luffy, Luffy is the same size as the Giants, right? He's in his big form. So next chapter, we're gonna get 3 big people stomping on Saturn and Kizaru, and I think that's gonna be an awesome time. I cannot wait to see how Dory and Bragi are gonna fare in a fight against top tier characters, man. You know, like I said, that is the one thing I'm missing from the Giants. I want to see how they handle Saturn. Maybe they're gonna be the solution here, right? Because we don't know how to hurt Saturn yet. Like Luffy, Sanji, like everybody has attacked Saturn, and he is just healed over and over. So maybe the Giants have some special hockey. Maybe they have some special weapons to hurt him. I'm not too sure. I think that'll be a cool plot point, right? Like maybe there is a special weapon to hurt people who can regenerate. Maybe the Giants and Elbaf have that because they have the Atom Tree. Yeah, there could be a couple of ways that Oda could go about this. So now on to the final parts of the chapter, like the last thing we're going to talk about here. We cut over to the Labo phase and we see that Vegapunk's heart monitor seemingly stops, which is why I think that Vegapunk is dead. And, you know, going back to Vegapunk smiling, if he is dead and he's smiling, Vegapunk low-key has the will of D. Because people who have the D initial usually smile when they die. That is like their bread and butter. But there have been characters who smile before they die that don't have the D initial. And it looks like Vegapunk is going to fall in that camp, which is pretty nice. He's like an unofficial D member. But then again, when you really think about the D clan, it does seem like anybody can become a member of the D family, right? Because there was that small flashback where Ace and Luffy gave Sabo the D. They're like, oh, Sabo, ha ha ha, we have Ds, you want one? Okay, you're now Sa-D-Bo. So with that fresh on the brain, I think that Vegapunk, in my opinion, is an honorary D clan member. I think he earned that title. And hey, he's not done yet, right? Even after he has died, he is now transmitting a video, which I think is hilarious, right? I'm sure we've all seen a movie or a storyline where a character dies and then something happens after that. You know, their death triggers something even greater. And that is what's happening here. We see Vegapunk flatline, and then boom, on the big screen, we have mic check, testing, 1, 2, 3, attention world. This is Dr. Vegapunk, the world's greatest and most humble scientific genius. I'm sure this message will come as a shock for all of you, but please bear with me. What I'm about to tell you is the truth about our world. Yo. Vegapunk is going to drop some Void Century knowledge. That has to be it, right? Vegapunk told Frankie, Nami, Robin, Usopp, and Sanji a little bit about the Void Century. We, as the audience, did not get to hear it. we only saw their reaction afterwards, right? Frankie was like, oh, how romantic. Robin was shocked. Nami was shocked. Usopp was shocked, saying they couldn't be real. So I think that is what we're going to hear here. We didn't learn about it at that time, but I think that was just a teaser for this. I think Vegapunk is going to drop so much lore about the Void Century, or at least his hypothesis, because that is what it was. Vegapunk at the time, or at least Shaka, said that he only guessed that is what happened. So what we're about to hear here isn't the full truth. We're probably going to get 25 or maybe even 50% of the story. At the very lowest level, I think next chapter, we are going to get the name of the ancient kingdom. Because let's be real, if Dr. Clover learned the name of the ancient kingdom based off of Ohara's research, and then now we have Vegapunk who researched all of Ohara's research, he should know that name as well. So I think Vegapunk, by doing this, is going to be fulfilling what Dr. Clover was trying to do in his final moments by telling the world, hey, this is what that kingdom was called. I think that is going to be an absolutely massive reveal. And hey, maybe he's even going to correlate Luffy or the Sun God to that kingdom as well, right? Maybe people are going to start looking at Luffy's bounty poster and saying, hey, I wonder if he has something to do with the Void Century. Man, I am so excited. I am so excited. I guess one thing I'm kind of curious about now is how many people are actually receiving this message. Is this message going to every single Denden Mushi in the world? Or is it only being announced here on Egghead Island? I'm not exactly sure. I feel like it would make more sense, and I would even believe it if it did connect to every Denden Mushi. Because going to Film Red, which I know it's not canon, but we saw Uta, so it's, it kind of popped back up. But Uta managed to show her music video to everyone in the world via Denden Mushis. So I wouldn't be super shocked if Vegapunk is doing something akin to that here. And maybe this could even tie in Vegapunk's ultimate dream of connecting everyone to Punk Records. I'm not super sure yet, but yeah, there's a lot of things going on here. As far as Vegapunk dying, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think it isn't the biggest loss because we do have Lilith, York, Edison, and Atlas still. But it is still a loss nonetheless, since he is the main Vegapunk. I am curious to see if his satellites will still be functioning afterwards. I'm curious to see if they can still connect to Punk Records, since that was connected via the Nomi Nomi no Mi. There's a lot of possibilities here, and I am really curious to see where Oda's going with it. But yeah, overall, I think this was a fantastic chapter. I mean, come on, we got the VAs, we have the catatonic Saturn, Kizaru fulfilling his mission. Oh yeah, good guy Kizaru. Yeah, we got a lot here, man, a lot to love. The Giants also brought a smile to my face, like I said. So slowly but surely my racism is being cured. And yeah, man, I feel like there's nothing to really hate about this chapter. One thing I'm kind of shocked about is that we didn't get more Zoro versus Lucci. I was actually expecting the stalling match to be over by now, but it looks like Oda is stalling a little bit further. And we do know that Zoro's number, or at least his birthday even, is 1111. So I think it would be very meta if Oda waited till chapter 1111 to finish that fight up. Actually, that'd be pretty cool, right? 1111, Zoro beats Lucci. Done. Or at least Zoro and Jinbei, or, however you want to spin it. Yeah, I think that could be the next chapter we see Zoro at. Imagine. This whole fight's been going on for like 6 or 7 months. That would be hilarious. But yeah, hey, with that being said, thank you guys so much for stopping by, checking out this video with me. I'll catch you guys on the next One Piece chapter, because there is no break next week. Oh, sorry, my drink spewed up for a second. You guys have a good one. Sai, signing out.